Hello, world. We are Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Lower East Side here in the city, powered by the East Side Community Network and sponsored by none other than the Ford Foundation. Now, a content partner to the new bridgedetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the East Side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on. We drop a new episode every week, so be sure to turn on those notifications. Today, we welcome U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib. Tlaib represents the 13th Congressional District in Congress. She's a lifelong Detroiter and your neighbor. A day before the Biden-Harris inauguration, we want to get her view on the safety protocols put in place at the Capitol, gauge whether or not she feels safe at work. We also want to get her thoughts on the Detroiters' Bill of Rights and hear about the housing protests that she took part in over the weekend. She's been a busy woman. Congresswoman, welcome back to Authentically Detroit.
No, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Orlando and Donna. This is a wonderful opportunity to continue to speak to my residents, so I always appreciate it.
So before we get into the business, I just want to remind people that when you came to office, you had one major goal in mind, and that was to what? And we can just give a warning. you can curse on this show.
Well, I know, but I was telling a story about bullying and the fact that we had a hateful, corrupted, lawless president before it was popular around the nation to really truly hold him accountable. The 13th district has been on the front lines and calling him out from day one, not only for the hate agenda, but the fact that, he really did use the public resources, the Oval Office, to run his corrupted businesses and to benefit his businesses over and over again. And even we could smell from afar the pay to play. Folks wanted the Trump administration to prove anything, they knew to stay at the Trump Hotel. We saw over and over again reports of, just unethical actions by himself and many of his family members, again, profiting off of the pain of so many of our families, residents, and others who needed government to be about them and not about the Trump industry and the Trump companies. So from day one, he refused to hold the United States Constitution's, the oath that he took to uphold it by not divesting his businesses. And then, when people didn't hold him accountable for that, it just enabled him to continue forward. And then you saw the violence you saw on January 6th.
Well, I just want to commend you, honestly, for speaking truth to power, for being unpolished. Just speaking directly at him in a way that people resonated with people, everyday people. And there were people who were trying to police your speech then. And look at us now. We are at a point right now where we have riots, and if people had listened to you in the outset and taken what you said seriously rather than worried about the tone of your pronouncement, maybe we would not have been in this place. So thank you for your leadership.
Donna, last week, one of my colleagues came up to me and said, "Whoa, Rashida, you're starting to sound moderate." In your caucus. No, he did. He came up, he's like, "You starting to sound moderate," because then the words coming out of my colleagues, the things they wanted to do. But again, I just, I know you all are commending me, but really, if it wasn't for a district that believed in me, I ran on impeaching this president. I said, this is about electing a jury that will hold him accountable, really, truly hold him accountable. I wasn't waiting for polling. I wasn't waiting until somehow there was some sort of awakening in the Senate. It was critically important, y'all, and I think maybe it's the mother in me that when there's bad behavior, you got to give the person time out. You got to give them a warning. And, I'm just praying, honestly, for our country and for our nation, that the Senate will wake up and will convict him. Hearing Mitch McConnell today speaking on the Senate floor, that's not enough. We don't need any more speeches. Folks can continue to condemn that kind of violence that we saw and really to attack on our democracy, and just how painful it was for communities like mine to see, the Confederate flag being flown, a noose being erected, even just the rhetoric coming out of that crowd. It's very painful for that to have centered right there in one of the branches of government. So, I'm hoping the Senate will do right and truly hold him accountable. And I know it's only one day, but I hope they'll have hearings. I hope that they understand that this is also about making sure he can't run for office again. It's also about investigating colleagues that live tweeted the whereabouts of Speaker Pelosi, that enabled much of their, again, what was coming out of that crowd was kidnapping. And if you look at even the speech by the forever impeached twice president, it was definitely calling on them to do everything possible to stop our democracy from taking place. So I just hope that we set a precedent that protects us in the future, because what he's leaving behind is not going to go anywhere until we do.
And that's why we gave you the Truth to Power Award, not this year, to 2 years ago, because you spoke truth.
A Maggie DeSantis Truth to Power Award.
Maggie DeSantis Truth to Power Award, recognizing your fearlessness and calling that out. And you are so right that there are other people who are still at the table who need to still be called out, because we cannot trust them to lead in DC. And you named some of them. I listened to what Mitch McConnell said, and it stopped short of inciting, right? It's sort of like he egged them on. And all those strong words at a time when, after the fact, when we should have been doing a better job. Moving forward, though, the news broke today that the coronavirus death toll passed 400,000 deaths. How do you make
sense of that? That's
so
more
hard.
Than half of Detroit's population,
Yeah.
Congresswoman.
I just wish my colleagues were on the same timeline as me. I don't understand why there's not a lack of urgency to move quickly. What I mean by that is, if we really truly centered on the process of launching an aggressive testing and tracing, an aggressive economic relief where people can stay home, where we are able to, distribute the vaccine in a way, again, that's aggressive and not in a way that still continues to leave, communities out. I want us to lead with compassion and with empathy, and truly understand how painful it is for so many of our neighbors and so many of us that have experienced loss during this pandemic. And it's been painful. I mean, I think for me, even seeing our own sheriff lose his life to COVID, and watching my residents and neighbors just really mourning that loss of, being so close to home, and understanding no one is immune to this. And what you can make sense of it is, like, government needs to step up, and Congress needs to be much more aggressive in its timeline of giving relief. These constant compromises of $600, a constant compromise of, well, we'll do this for the vaccine distribution, and then later we'll do this, understanding that that's just not enough. People have been suffering for the last year, and again, we need to do something much more bold and meaningful to truly save lives.
It really is jarring to hear that number, to know that the city of Detroit has a little under 700,000 in population, and 400,000 deaths have taken place in the United States. That's more than half of our city. If we to contextualize it, I don't think people realize that there are humans and families behind these numbers. I don't think we could ever be so far removed to where we feel like it's happening to other people and not us.
Yeah, and also the trauma of, one, losing your job, getting the eviction notices. The moratoriums are absolutely critically important. I get it. But when those moratoriums are over, that rent's still going to be due, that water bill's still going to be due. That vaccine is not going to fix the savings account or economic hardship that many of our family members are going through. And just equally as important as distribution of the vaccine, we also need to make sure that we have direct reoccurring payments of $2,000 per month. We just have not done enough in supporting our families during this pandemic. And all of that creates so much more trauma. So not only are they seeing death, but they're seeing themselves having to get in a food bank line, having to worry about what happens when the moratoriums are over, that anxiety, that fear. And many children, again, are going through that trauma with their family members. So again, it's really important, no fault of their own. They're unemployed, they're struggling. And many of them, as you know, Orlando and Donna, they were in survivor mode before this pandemic.
Absolutely.
And now it's just gotten so much worse.
You joined in with 232 other legislators in voting to impeach Donald Trump a second time. The platform that you ran on in your words at the very beginning of your term were prophetic in nature, actually twice. But I really want to get a sense from you, what was going through your head when you were hearing arguments from the other side not to impeach the president in the wake of the insurrection that took place on January 6th that the president himself incited?
Even the short time I was on the House floor to speak in support of the impeachment, I heard a number of my colleagues, including one that gave tours out to some of these terrorists of the Capitol. And you can hear them saying, I condemn violence. And then they continue to spew out the same lies, the same conspiracy theories, defending the attack and enabling, again, what happened. It is so difficult that many of my colleagues on the other side still stand by this lawless, corrupted president. They still stand by the lies. And I truly don't think we're going to heal or come together in unity unless there's true accountability for those that I feel very much should be expelled and removed from office. Because I'll tell you, if they looked anything like you and I, Orlando, you and I, Donna, there would be no question that they would be removed, that they would be investigated. I can tell you, I've seen it. Not only were they policing my words, my actions, but there were people calling all kinds of things, just simply me saying, we need to address the fact that capitalism isn't working right now in the way, that it's leaving people behind, or when I defend Black lives, Black bodies. And so I think it's really important to, really show the American people, like, what these folks were defending, what they were saying. It was very obvious to me that if that crowd was Black or Latino or anybody that looks like me, I'm telling you, there would be no question on the part that they would denounce. Like what I saw in the past with the uprising of Black Lives Matter, with women that came to the Capitol to defend their bodies, to defend their right to public health access, they were met with such aggression, militarization. And what I saw, continue to see in videos as more people are coming forward and showing, is that even within our law enforcement, within those that were supposed to protect us, there was literally a green light to come on in. I watched as folks, were complaining about being like tear gassed, and I've been tear gassed. And then you see the same police putting water to try to help. I mean, it was just an experience to see this happening and unfold. And all I kept thinking about is, oh, okay. So white supremacy and white privilege, I mean, you could see it was so evident. And that is distressing. But I'll tell you, Orlando, watching them one by one get up on the other side of the aisle, and, you could see that they are very much in line with what happened. And they can continue to say in words that they condemn violence, but you can condemn violence, but not without action and saying you're going to hold those accountable. Instead, you can hear them enabling or almost apologetically to what was going on, and continued again defending Donald Trump, who, deserved both impeachments.
Well, it feels to me like gun rights belong to white people. And
That's right.
economic pain,
That's right,
is a concern for white people. And even, I hear some people defending or describing the real issue isn't racism or white supremacy, but people victimized by programming and other things that sort of takes responsibility away from, people with 3 or 4 degrees and places it on somebody else, so that accountability doesn't belong to white people. Accountability belongs to everybody else. But we live in a system where it's not a 2-tier system of citizenship. It feels like I'm not fully a citizen of the United States. My rights, the government does not act in response to my needs in the same way it does to other people. And the government would treat me differently. And so even though there were white people who were maced and tear gassed, they were done so under the banner of helping Black people. It was Black lives that had to be denounced, had to be minimized. And so I'm wondering if even now the framing of this still doesn't speak to the seriousness of the insurrection. Like it's almost like, well, we've got this this epidemic of belief in children being kidnapped, and that's the real issue here, is that people believe these crazy things. Do you think that the framing in that way is accurate, or do you think, like me, that it's dangerous?
No, I think it's extremely dangerous. Look, I think that there needs to obviously be a conversation about, really a real conversation about systematic racism, about white supremacy in our country. And yes, there should also be a conversation about economic justice and again, all these broken systems that really, I think contributed. But at the end, there was a leader, an extremist that fed into other extremists. And not only was it the president of the United States, it was social media networks, it was media, it was colleagues that decided inaction was okay while we allowed him to continue. Again, that was enabling him. And it's not just Republicans, it's also Democrats that, continue to say it's not this bad of a deal. I mean, I just want you all to know it could have been so much more worse than what we saw. It is a miracle that no one, member was kidnapped or more people died, because that was, people call it a mob order, but it was literally an attack. They looked like an army. Some were even dressed like they were ready to, kill, hurt, destroy. And so I think, Donna, it is definitely a combination, but it's a lot of, continuation of like, let's not talk about, no, really, let's not talk about the fact that this system is literally set up for white folks to do this. But when it comes to folks saying, hey, that's my taxpayer dollars you give it to police, and they're killing me. We need to do something about it. We need to divert some of that money towards communities and neighborhoods and not criminalize the poor and all these other things. So there needs to be a real conversation about that. Because I also think, even when we talk about economic justice, there are folks in our communities that, again, not our, that think it's supposed to be different for them versus for our communities. That's why you don't see them marching sometimes and saying, why our Detroit public schools don't have clean drinking water? Boy, if it was other communities, there would be absolute unity in coming together and saying we all deserve clean drinking water. And it's the same idea around it's not in my backyard kind of thing. But it needs to be both. There needs to be a real conversation about the failure of, really helping, everyone in our country that is the most vulnerable, but also, white supremacy is very much alive and well, and he fed into it. It is so unfortunate to see it kind of happen, but I also feel really, really passionate about the fact that, hearing my colleagues finally say, I saw Capitol Police help them. And I said, and I wasn't surprised. We just had a hearing about white supremacy within law enforcement around the country. FBI has a report about it. Yeah. Where have you been? And then they continue to say they could not believe what they saw. And even today, as we see National Guard members being removed from the inauguration protection and service, it doesn't surprise me. Even though they won't reveal everything, there has absolutely been an issue. And now finally, hopefully finally, I think people will actually take this very seriously when communities like ours have been warning folks that this has been an issue.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there was a point made over the weekend around, the importance of journalists of color. And journalists of color have been ringing this alarm since Donald Trump became the presumptive nominee, or even before, around just almost prophetic in nature around the events that will take place. And it's almost a slap in the face for folks who were on that side to now be saying, oh my God, I'm so shocked. We didn't realize. And it's like, no, you didn't want to realize. We told you, people were telling you, at the very
Not
onset.
Only that, he told us who he was. He told us who he was, and they still did not reject him. I felt rejected by my own neighbors who didn't think that was enough to say, I can't support him for the second time.
Right.
It's not like he didn't show who he was. And that still wasn't enough for them. They'll try to rationalize away from it and say, hey, I'm not racist. But, you know, some of these folks, honestly, they may say that, they may believe that, whatever. But the act in itself and supporting this kind of hate agenda, I mean, he was very clear. He was very clear in not only his rhetoric, but his policies that, you know, I mean, it was very, and the people still continued to support him and to even protect him in many ways.
But, you know, they know they're racist. You know what you believe and you know what you say, right? I know what I believe and I know what I say.
Donna, I don't know. Some of my colleagues, even when they say stuff, they don't even know it's racist. I said sometimes the act in itself is racist.
But because what they do is, let me say this, they don't characterize their beliefs as racist, but they believe that they don't want to live next door to a Black person. They may not characterize it as racist, but they believe that when Colin Kaepernick kneels, he's a son of a bitch. And when a police officer is aligned with the white supremacist group, that's his American right, that's his free speech. So they may not characterize that as racism because in their mind, it's normal. And what they're doing is reaffirming the norms. But I think we spend a lot of time trying to convince people that they hate us when it's in their hearts. They know how they feel. Some time ago, I stopped thinking, you know, I need to convince you of that because racism is what you think, it's what you do. It's the policies you enact, it's how you treat people. It is you looking at a police officer kill a Black man and Black man after Black man after Black woman after Black man and let them off because he was afraid for his life, even though there's evidence that he wasn't. So whatever you say you think, I believe there is something inside of you that is thinking things you are not saying. And it is the dehumanization of our people. It is the dehumanization of so many people who are not white and Christian in this world, where we can do certain things and tolerate certain abuses against certain people because of our perception of their right to life, our perception of their right to safety, our perception of their right to food, to medical care. So I'm unapologetic in refusing to believe y'all didn't know. You know what a Nazi symbol is, even if they say that they knew what the white power symbol was, they're pretending. And you know what? Just like we get together with our families and talk, they get together with their families and talk. And these people have been talking to their families for a long, long time and hearing unfiltered conversations around dinner tables we will never be sitting at. So let's take them at the word. Let's look at what they've done. What they did was allow this to happen. What they did was 74 million people voted for this man this second time, and it disgusts me. If you are not racist, you are certainly tolerant of hate. And we're just looking
it wasn't enough for them to reject him. That alone in itself, I think Stephen Henderson wrote, it put me to tears. I remember right after the 2016 election, Stephen Henderson wrote editorial or op-ed of some sort, where it was like the sad, because many of us were mourning, because at that moment we realized, like, even though we knew Donna, I mean, but still at that moment, I think we all still had that same kind of awake, like, oh my God, that wasn't enough. They didn't reject it. I felt very much rejected by my own country, for them to be able to stand by and choose him. You know, I have people that tell me, well, you know, this and that, and I say, so well, stay home. You don't like either, stay home, but you made a choice, a conscientious choice to support white supremacists.
Congresswoman, we got a couple of minutes.
I do want to just point out one thing. Right now, you have over 400,000 people who died from COVID in the United States. Yeah. When people went to the polls and voted, what was the number? About 340,000 deaths. It
was trending around. It was trending past
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
That number, whatever that number in the 300,000s, was acceptable to people who went to the polls. So it's traumatic for many of us right now. But I know, Orlando, we do need to shift because we do have a couple of questions. I just wanted to point out that. Yeah,
we only have the Congresswoman for a couple of more minutes. We want to switch gears really quickly to the Detroiters' Bill of Rights. Commissioner Denzel McCampbell, who also works for you, is fully supportive of the Bill of Rights being implemented into the charter. Tell us why this initiative is so important?
You know, I just know the experience I've seen for the last decade or so is our residents, Detroiters, have had to go to court to demand access to water, to go to court to demand, pushback against, facial recognition technology that is racist. And so all of that to say, from us having to file the Freedom of Information Act just to find out, yep, we got overtaxed about $600 million. We have gone through a lot, even from the last recession to even now. Many of our neighbors and folks want to see a different way of life and a different way of having our city government support families. And, over and over again, this dialogue and this real dialogue, people didn't like it when you said two Detroits, but it's real. There was a certain part of our city that continued to get resources to continue to be part of the decision-making table, from city council continuing to enable them, from the big, large tax breaks. We still saw school closures. We still saw folks literally getting kicked out of their houses for less than $1,000. We still saw people at some of the highest water shutoffs in the nation were right here in our backyard. So the Bill of Rights sets values, and I commend Councilwoman Raquel Cassiano Lopez and Speaker Pro Tem, I believe, Mary Sheffield and others for the reality of the check, kind of the reality check that needed to happen, and saying these are rights that we have for us to truly be able to live. They started doing this before this uprising on Black Lives, but if you look at that list, it truly is about this idea around, even Dr. King and others talked about this. Folks always talk about who killed George Floyd, who killed Sandra Bland, meaning the police brutality, the police department, police officer. Who is important? Absolutely. But I also think it's what are the conditions and the systems that have been set up against especially our Black neighbors? What is going on in an 85% Black city where we can continue to see poverty increase among our children, to see our residents being denied access to resources, while we continue to see billionaires and those that don't even live in the city continue to get the resources they seem to need to make more money. So I just, I know there's been a lot of effort and hard work towards it. I think it's important because if anything, those in power now at the local level and the city level who have tremendous amount of, ability to make a difference for the lives of those in the city, is that they need a bit of a wake up call to understanding what the values and what the needs of Detroiters are. But yeah, Orlando, it's important that much of that Bill of Rights needs to translate into real policy changes. I'm tired of my folks begging to matter, begging that they don't get beat up if they protest, begging to get water to be. They're like, I'll pay for water, Rashida. Just make it affordable. This is my mother's house, and they want to kick me out. They want to put it on an auction. And they can continue to say they put moratoriums, they'll stop this or that. But a lot of our families have suffered at the hands of those that claim they didn't have any power to change it. They seem to change it again for the billionaires. But when it comes to our regular folks that never gave up on our city, they seem to continue to leave them behind in policy.
Last question for you. You made news over the weekend protesting in partnership with Detroit Will Breathe and the Detroit Eviction Defense to call foul on an eviction carried out on a woman named Whitney Burney that at the 10th precinct, actually, that the Detroit Police Department illegally helped a landlord evict a woman and her family. Can you tell us a little bit about that in connection to housing being a part of, the Bill of Rights?
So there's a movement that really was birthed here called Black Homes Matter. And it started off with the egregious and the horrific worst tax foreclosure crisis we've ever had was here in Wayne County. And so there's so much more to Whitney's story, who brought me to tears. She's a mother of four. So, her slum landlord propositioned her for sex in exchange for rent. She refused his advances continually. She found out later that he's like on a sex offenders list or some sort of sexual predator. And he was able to get local city of Detroit law enforcement, no legal documents, nothing. He was able to go and get them, and he claimed that she was a squatter. He was able to come, kick her out with her 4 children in the middle of the snow, no shoes, no coat, 2 days before Christmas on December 23rd. And yes, officers showed up. He was able to, this criminal, this sexual abuser, the sick man was able to use our own local law enforcement to show up and illegally, again, this is very important, illegally evict Miss Whitney and her 4 children. What's horrific about it also is, she couldn't take anything with her. Her laptop for her kids that were doing online schooling was gone. She, you could see that she went through so much trauma. Even when we delivered that day, Orlando, when we went to protest, we actually were delivering a letter asking for accountability, asking for the officer's name. And even then the commander was saying training. And I looked at her and I said, this is not about training. No amount of training is going to fix the fact that this is corruption at its core. Somebody knew someone. Now, how would they show up? I can't even get them to show up for stuff that is actually, real emergency situation. So even then, Orlando, watching Whitney's face, she was afraid of the police officer is supposed to keep her safe. That alone, that you can't reform that kind of stuff. I mean, people want to reform. You can't reform that. The fact that she still was afraid to give them a letter that says, I have rights. I have a right to not have that happen to me. And it's really so saddens me that even at that moment, as tears were coming down her face, that she was still afraid, even with us surrounding her with love, showing her that she absolutely had the truth on her side. She still was truly living in fear because the police department under Chief Craig's leadership continue to claim that this is about this or that. No, there's a culture within our city that this kind of criminalization of the poor, that folks can do this. Slum landlords can actually get officers to come and work on their behalf, even though they're, sexual predators and so forth. I don't even like calling him a slum landlord. He is a sick individual. Who knows who else he's done this to?
U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, representing the 13th Congressional District in Congress. We thank you so much for your time today, Congresswoman.
Well, thank you both. And please be safe out there. As you all will see, we still got a long way to combat COVID. And so please be extremely careful and, know that my door is always open and you always have a fighter in me in the United States Congress.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Hey, if you have topics that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Authentically Detroit, or email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Donna, time for shout outs. Do you have them prepared today?
Absolutely. I would like to shout out you, Dr. Bernadette Atwahini, Rashida Tlaib, Reverend
Barber,
and oh my goodness, where am I with names?
Dr. Cornell West.
Cornell West. Where am I with names? That was one of the best, absolutely the best. What webinars I've ever seen. I was so moved, and the truth and the passion that came from everybody speaking on behalf of our community. And I really want to shout out you, Orlando, for really making a national name for yourself. I see great things in your future. I keep telling you that. And when you were compared to all of these musicians, these famous musicians, for the way you led that conversation, I have to say, you always do a great job at that. So it was really great.
Thank you, Donna. I want to also shout out the Congresswoman and Professor Bernadette Atuhuene and Dr. Cornell West and the Reverend Dr. William Barber for an amazing Black Homes Matter event. I want to shout out Donna Davidson, who started classes at Columbia last week. She teaching, y'all. She teaching. How did it go, Donna? How was everything?
Well, it went well. It went well. I'm learning the systems. I started out, I forgot to turn the Zoom recorder on. And then I saved it to my laptop and not to the cloud, but I'm learning the systems. I think I enjoyed the students that we had last time. My class is actually growing, so I'll have more students tomorrow. So it went well. So
Awesome.
tomorrow I'm going to be watching the inauguration, and I
Yes.
cleared my schedule because this is an event. And then afterwards, I'm going to teach my class, the second class.
Amazing. Well, what a on the precipice of the inauguration, what a time to have class. So I think that would make for an interesting class discussion and, just, reflection. Hey, we want to shout out Tasha Tabron in her new position at the Kresge Foundation. Donna, we have this love relationship for Tasha Tabron because she believed in your vision in helping to, redevelop and, organize along Mack Avenue before anybody else did. And she put money in it when she was at JP Morgan Chase. And she has long been a champion for our work on the East Side. In fact, she is the EC and Corporate Champion Award winner, and she's now at Kresge Foundation.
Let me say this about Tasha. I knew her when. Tasha, when I was at Vanguard Community Development Corporation, I had this job position for a business development manager or director. I don't even remember what the title was, but Tasha took a break from banking to come work with me. And so I had an opportunity to get to know her, her passion, her fierceness, her brilliance, and to see her rise is just, just a beautiful thing. What the thing about Tasha is she does everything with such a good heart and with such a strong commitment.
Yes.
And not everybody can go into a boardroom and come out and stay that connected to the community and take the community with her into the boardroom when she comes out then with a solution. So I like to see her work. I love how she is able to support our community, putting her money and corporate money where her mouth is. So great things are going to happen with Kresge. I just know they are. I also want to shout out our friend, Chase Cantrell.
Yes.
Who took the time to look through a budget proposal and note that the city is planning to invest less money through proposal in the 8,000 homes they're supposed to be restoring than they advertised last year, and more money on demolition. So that feels like bait and switch, but I call him Detroit's watchdog because he is doing his
watchdog.
He is. Listen, if you need data, he will find it. He will produce it, put it out there, simplify it, and make people understand. So I really admire his work as well.
He has those lawyer eyes. I want to shout out all of the Greek organizations since last week who have gone through Founders Day. So many of the Divine Nine had their Founders Day this past week. So, a lot of our friends, Donna, friends to this show and friends in our personal lives are Greek. And we want to just, take a little bit of time out to say to all of them, happy Founders Day. Apply
to every graduate from an HBCU, I see you, okay? Yeah. I mean, Morehouse, Spelman, Howard are getting all kinds of shine. And even though I did not have the opportunity to attend, I guess I had the opportunity, but I didn't make the right choice to attend an HBCU. I just absolutely love having our brilliance showcased on a national level. The idea that we have these institutions that were created in the shadow of oppression, and look at the people that they are still producing, the diamonds still produced in those conditions. So absolutely happy to see Kamala Harris rise as VP. And you know what? I have another person shout out.
That's so brilliantly put how you put that.
But listen, also, can I say a little bit something about my girl Regina King?
Please. Oh, please.
Oh my God. One night in Miami. Regina King, I was looking at all the awards this woman has won for acting, but then she directed.
Her directorial debut.
Her debut in One Night in Miami. I've never seen anybody play Malcolm X like that brother played Malcolm X. I'm telling you, he was so fierce. I was like, whoa. And then Muhammad Ali was so great. And then Jim Brown for the ladies. I mean, it was a great experience. lots of women were like, wow, who is this guy? I'm just saying, you
Aldous
know.
Hodge. People didn't know who Aldous Hodge was.
Oh,
Nice
you
to
know,
meet.
people my age, I'm just saying my friends were just really into
Oh,
it. But
gotcha.
the reality is you had the quiet intensity, you had you know, the stuff talking Muhammad Ali, and then you had the intense Malcolm. She brought those performances to life. It was entertaining. It was great. I mean, she's brilliant. She just had her birthday, and I think she just turned 50.
50.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So
And
I thought she was older than that, but that's cool.
watch it if you haven't. It's on Amazon Prime. I also want to shout out someone that we haven't had on this show, but is a friend of mine, Courtney Smith, the executive director of the Detroit Phoenix Center, who took place in some inauguration festivities yesterday and gave a mind-blowing speech yesterday following Sean Patrick Thomas and Lynn Whitfield with her speech yesterday for the presidential inauguration activities, local Detroiter being showcased around the amazing work she does around youth who are experiencing homelessness and transience here in the city of Detroit. So shout out to Courtney.
Absolutely.
And that's going to do it for this
Oh,
episode.
I have one more.
Oh, go for it.
Our friend, the late Marlo Stoudemire, was honored by the Red
Yes.
Wings with the 67 jersey yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday.
It was Sunday.
It was Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't
Sunday.
know. It was
Yeah,
one of these days. All of them run together. No, he was honored with the Red Wings jersey. His wife and children were there to receive the honor for his work pulling together, helping to diversify the National Hockey League and working with the Red Wings to expose hockey to so many young African American people. His work lives on. And it's hard not to think of him every time something big happens, but this was a big time for him to be recognized. And I was just proud of him in memoriam and of his family.
We love you, Valencia and family. We're always here for you. Marlo is deeply missed, our brother, our friend. And with that, we thank you so much for listening, and we want you to catch the wave.